Zeus ruled Olympus. Before the Titans, before the gods themselves, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon aligned for vengeance. This is a story of Zeus and Olympus, charting the absolute peak of a generational war. If you've made it this far, you are part of the rare 50% of viewers who appreciate true depth in mythological storytelling. Give this video a thumbs up right now. It forces the YouTube algorithm to suggest this documentary to other mythology enthusiasts, helping our community grow. Now, as the lines are drawn and the world breaks apart, let's see how far Zeus was willing to go to seize total dominion. This was not a localized battle of flesh and blood. It was a 10-year systematic war of attrition between two completely different generations of gods. The older generation, the Titans, fortified themselves on Mount Othrys. They represented the raw, primordial, unstructured forces of the universe, mass, gravity, and brute, unyielding strength. The younger generation, the Olympians, established their operational headquarters on the high, jagged peaks of Mount Olympus, representing order, structure, and tactical intellect. The 10-year deadlock. For an entire decade, the universe burned. The sheer scale of the conflict was apocalyptic. When the Titans marched, the foundations of the earth groaned and shifted. Mountain ranges were literally uprooted from the crust and hurled across oceans like stones. The seas boiled as cosmic energy deflected off the waves, and the very sky threatened to tear away from the horizon. Yet, despite the immense devastation, neither side could achieve a decisive breakthrough. The Titans possessed superior physical mass and centuries of collective combat experience. The Olympians possessed unmatched agility, ferocity, and a desperate psychological drive, but they lacked the raw firepower required to crack the heavy stone fortifications of Mount Othrys. It was a classic grinding military deadlock. Every offensive launched by Zeus was met with a brutal, crushing counteroffensive by Atlas, the supreme field commander of the Titan armies. Zeus realized that if the war continued under these parameters, the Olympians would eventually lose through sheer exhaustion. He didn't just need to fight harder, he needed to alter the baseline logistics of the war. He needed weapons and allies that did not exist within the conventional parameters of the cosmos. To win a war against the gods of the sky, he had to look deep into the anatomy of the underworld. Unshackling the abyss. Zeus turned his attention to Tartarus, the deepest, most secure maximum security prison in existence. Long before Kronos took the throne, the elder anomalies of creation there imprisoned the Cyclopes, master craftsmen of cosmic energy, and the Hecatoncheires, the 100-handed ones, massive giants of terrifying physical capability. Cronos had kept them chained in the dark, terrified of their potential to disrupt his status quo. Tartarus was guarded by Campe, a monstrous, venomous jailer whose lower body was a writhing mass of vipers and whose breath was pure sulfur. Zeus understood that to conquer the heights of heaven, he had to be willing to descend into the absolute bottom of the abyss. He led his siblings down into the subterranean dark, bypassing the conventional boundaries of life and death. They confronted Campe in the dim, suffocating heat of the deep underworld. A brutal, close-quarters skirmish ensued, but Zeus, fueled by a singular, cold determination, managed to blind and slay the monster, tearing the heavy iron keys of Tartarus from her dead coils. When Zeus unlocked the ancient bronze gates, he didn't see monsters. He saw an industrial and military gold mine. He struck a cold, pragmatic political alliance with the prisoners. "I will give you your freedom," Zeus promised,
if you give me the means to annihilate our mutual oppressors." The Cyclops agreed. They were not just brutes, they were the ultimate divine blacksmiths, capable of manipulating the raw fundamental forces of quantum energy. They set up an industrial forge in the heart of the Underworld, using the heat of Tartarus to manipulate cosmic plasma. They forged 3 definitive weapons of dominion, customized specifically for the unique tactical profiles of the 3 Olympian brothers.
For Poseidon, they forged the Trident, a massive 3-pronged spear capable of channeling the tectonic frequencies of the Earth, allowing him to command the oceans and trigger catastrophic earthquakes at will. For Hades, they forged the Helm of Darkness, an artifact of absolute light absorption that allowed the wearer to shift completely out of the visible spectrum, becoming an invisible, untraceable specter of death. And for Zeus, they forged the ultimate instrument of supreme military dominance, the Master Lightning Bolt. This was not a simple flash of light. It was a condensed, hyper-pressurized javelin of pure thermonuclear energy, capable of vaporizing entire armies and shattering tectonic plates. Simultaneously, the Hecatoncheires, Kronos, Briareos, and Gyges joined the ranks. Each giant possessed 50 heads and 100 massive piston-like arms. They were the ultimate living artillery pieces, capable of maintaining a relentless, unyielding rate of physical bombardment that no military fortification could withstand. The alliance was complete. The Olympians were no longer just a group of rebellious siblings. They were a fully mechanized, hyper-armed military machine. The Battle of the Thunderbolts. Zeus led his reinforced army back to the surface for the final decisive engagement of the war. The battleground was the plains of Thessaly, sandwiched between the 2 smoking mountain peaks of Olympus and Othrys. The sky turned an unnatural bruised purple as the 2 cosmic forces aligned against each other for the last time. The final assault began with the deployment of the Hecatoncheires. The 300-handed giants advanced to the front lines, their 300 hands working in a terrifying, synchronized rhythm. They uprooted entire cliffsides, crushing boulders the size of cities in their fists, and launched them into the air. A relentless, catastrophic hail of stone rained down upon Mount Othrys. 300 massive rocks hit the Titan lines every single second, creating a permanent curtain of kinetic impact that tore down their outer walls and pinned their heavy infantries in place. Under the cover of this massive artillery barrage, Hades utilized his Helm of Darkness. Shifting entirely out of reality, he slipped unseen through the crumbling back lines of the Titan fortress. He entered their armory, systematically sabotaging their reserve weapons, cutting their supply lines, and creating a wave of psychological panic from within the dark. Then, Poseidon slammed his trident into the valley floor. The earth buckled. A massive tectonic fissure ripped across the plains of Thessaly, swallowing entire divisions of Titan soldiers. The oceans roared over the coastlines, flooding the lowlands and trapping the Titans on a rapidly shrinking, unstable island of rock. With the Titans pinned by stone, panicked by invisibility, and trapped by water, Zeus delivered the final strike. He stepped to the edge of Mount Olympus, his silhouette illuminated by an internal, blinding blue fury. He reached into his quiver and unleashed the master lightning bolts. The sky exploded. The sheer concentrated heat of the bolts scorched the surrounding air, turning the atmosphere into an incandescent furnace. The forests of Greece caught fire instantly. The rivers evaporated into sheets of blinding white steam. Zeus did not just throw one bolt. He maintained a continuous, relentless bombardment, his arms moving like a machine, blanketing the entire world in a white-hot storm of cosmic radiation.
The Titans, despite their immense size and strength, were completely overwhelmed. The blinding light fried their vision. The intense heat melted their armor. For the first time in 10 years, the line broke. The Titan defense collapsed into absolute chaos.
The aftermath of the battle was a scene of chilling, systematic efficiency. The defeated Titans were not shown mercy. They were treated as political dissidents who needed to be permanently erased from the cosmic equation. Zeus had them bound in heavy, unbreakable chains forged from the same underworld iron that had kept the Cyclopes captive. They were marched down into the dark, cast back into the deepest depths of Tartarus, the very prison they had maintained. To ensure they would never escape, Zeus installed the massive bronze gates that Uranus had built, and he appointed the 3 Hecatoncheires to serve as their permanent, eternal jailers. The oppressors had become the prisoners. For Atlas, the field commander who had extended the war for a decade, Zeus engineered a specific, highly psychological punishment. He did not lock him in a cell. Instead, he condemned him to stand at the western edge of the world, his muscles straining under the perpetual, crushing weight of the entire celestial sphere. Zeus turned his greatest enemy into a piece of structural architecture, forcing him to hold up the very sky that the Olympians now ruled. With the old regime neutralized, the 3 victorious brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, met to divide the spoils of creation. They did not fight. They drew lots from a golden helmet to ensure a clinical, organized distribution of power. Poseidon drew the oceans, establishing his domain over the shifting, volatile deep. Hades drew the underworld, taking control of the dark subterranean realms of the dead and the treasures hidden beneath the earth. And Zeus drew the highest lot, the endless, infinite sky. Zeus ascended the steps of Mount Olympus and took his place upon the central throne. He had broken the chains of his family, liberated the cosmos from a cannibal king, and established a new era of structure, law, and civilization. But power is a dangerous entity. To hold a throne won through deception and violence, you must be willing to maintain that violence. As Zeus looked out over his new kingdom, the crown heavy on his brow, a haunting realization began to settle into his mind. He had broken the cycle of his father, but in doing so, he had inherited his father's exact same paranoia. He was now the king. He was now the institution. And somewhere in the shadows of the future, a prophecy was already waiting for him. The cycle of power had not been destroyed. It had simply found a younger, more dangerous master. Zeus spent eternity guarding his crown, but he isn't the only figure whose villainy was defined by a tragic cycle. If you want to see how this pattern repeats itself across other pantheons, click on the video appearing on your screen right now to watch our full documentary on the real story of Loki. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next chapter on history's most tragic villains, and I'll see you in the next tale.